Am I the asshole for telling my mother-in-law if she keeps rearranging my kitchen she can get a hotel room? I, 29F, am married to a wonderful man, 30M, who is also the brother of my best friend. Our heights are very different, with me being 6 feet 6 inches and him being 5 feet 7 inches. All of his family are on the short side, and it led to some adjustments in our living arrangements at first, but we found what worked for us. We realized early on that it was easier for him to use a step stool to reach what he needed in the kitchen than for me to constantly be crouching to get what I need, as that gets painful quickly for me. This was fine, until my mother-in-law came to stay with us 2 weeks ago. Her roof needs repairs, my husband and I have a spare room while my best friend doesn't, so it was only logical she come stay with us. She has constantly been moving things about in the kitchen, lowering items as she doesn't want to use the step stool, which isn't anything to do with her age or fearing she'll fall, she just doesn't want to. She keeps harping on about how it's ridiculous everything is so high up and it's rude for guests. My husband has repeatedly shut her down, stating my comfort matters more than theoretical guests, and asked her not to move things. She lets it go for a day, then things are moved again. I've expressed frustration to my husband about this, and the final straw came today when I went to make myself a coffee and could not find my coffee mugs anywhere. It took me 5 minutes to find them in my kitchen, and I found them in the lower cabinet that I had to kneel to get them out of. I was angry and snappish at this as my back had hurt from getting my mug, and I told her if she couldn't stop herself from rearranging my kitchen she could get a hotel room, as I have had enough of her entitlement. This led to a lot of blustering and some tears that she was just trying to make it make more sense, and how this is her son's home and how it's just a little reorganization and that they shouldn't all suffer just because I'm tall. She then also began to say how I'm heartless to expect her to stay in a hotel over the holidays. My husband was clearly uncomfortable at this and didn't want his mother upset, but he told her that it wasn't just his home, but mine too, and if she wouldn't respect my comfort and happiness then she would have to leave. She has went into the guest room and I can hear her crying still. My husband is clearly getting anxious and upset over this, but he's not backing down, and I feel awful that my snapping led to him feeling like this. Maybe I should have just put up with it or been more gentle about how I dealt with it. I honestly don't care that she's upset, which may make me sound heartless, but I hate that my husband is feeling this way. Not the asshole, you stood up for yourself and gave a fair warning. I believe you've been quite patient. I appreciate that your husband is uncomfortable, but so be it, sometimes life is uncomfortable. She had plenty of opportunities to stop complaining and to stop moving things around before you drew this line. Express appreciation for your husband and just let her sit with it. To be honest, I'd be wondering about past interactions with her. She seems to almost take offense to your height somehow, and I wonder if anything has ever come up about your fit with your husband, the optics of such a statuesque person or whatnot. People are weird. I don't know anyone who keeps mugs in a lower cabinet, and I'm 5 feet 1 inch. Not the asshole. The house belongs to you and your husband, so stuff should be arranged however the two of you agree it should be arranged. And mother-in-law needs to be grateful she has family with the capacity to take her in during her roof repairs. Since your main concern is how this is affecting your husband, maybe the two of you should have a date night or something and get away from his mom for a few hours. Do you know how my mom survives something very similar when her short-ass self visits my average height self and tall husband? She checks which mugs and glasses are our favorites. She then chooses her own favorites from the leftover options, and each time puts 1 coffee mug, 1 water glass and 1 wine glass in our bowls cupboard. Zero hassle for any of us, and saves her stretching for the drinkware, as it's on the top shelf. Not the asshole, and anyone who's still crying over reasonable reprimand is a drama queen who can be ignored until they calm themselves down. Not the asshole. I'm 5 feet 7 inches, I can access 80% of my kitchen storage just fine, and yeah, I use a step stool for the rest. If she wants 1 mug kept lower, I presume that would be fine. No need to rearrange the whole cupboard. You don't rearrange someone else's things in their own home without permission. Not the asshole. Am I the asshole for not being a chatty Cathy with my hospital roommate? I, 30F, had surgery earlier today. I gave birth to a baby 6 months ago. There was a complications which could not have been able to be operated on at the time. So I was the first surgery for the day. The nurses kept mentioning it. After recovering, I was brought to my observation ward. About an hour or so later I had a roommate, 40-ish F, joined. I had been watching TV shows on my iPad with the volume on loud. As soon as she arrived, I put my AirPods in as a courtesy to her. Later in the afternoon my husband brought our baby to come and see me. As soon as they left, roommate started up a conversation. I was polite and entertained the conversation for about 30 minutes. I apologized to cut the conversation short, but I was going to have a nap. Well, she got all huffy and rude, saying I was selfish. When I woke up from the nap, roommate was no longer there. I called for pain meds and the nurse said I must have really said something to her, as while I was asleep, she demanded to be moved to a different room, and that I should be kinder with my words. I feel that I'm not the asshole for wanting to sleep to recover. It could be the meds I'm on, but I feel horrible. Well, I have a small update. I am in a private hospital. For my admission I did request a private room, but it is not always guaranteed. Yesterday and today were the last days for elective surgery. To my surprise, an old classmate works in the recovery ward and didn't want to freak me out yesterday by visiting. She texted me saying she saw my name and then me in the ward yesterday. This morning she came by before she started her shift. We had a lovely conversation and she got to meet my little one as my in-laws came by to visit as they're babysitting for him. It was a wonderful silver lining as I hadn't seen my classmate for about 6 years. Turns out the former roommate was never meant to be put in a room with me as there is a lot of empty rooms. My new morning nurse said that the former roommate was still complaining about me and whole lot more. She was doing laps up and down the ward, and made a comments to my mother-in-law about how rude I am as they were leaving. Mother-in-law told her to shut up and focus on her own recovery instead of worrying about other people. I get discharged tomorrow morning, so I am trying to rest up before I am back with my little family. Not the asshole. Why are you even entertaining a thought about how some busybody you'll never meet again feels about you? You're not in a hospital to make friends, but to get well. Ignore the nurse as well. She had one side of the story from the victim, who probably painted you as the AH. Not the asshole. At all. I'd probably speak to the supervisor about the nurse's comments. While I'm sure they were well intended, they were completely inappropriate. Hope you're feeling better. Not the asshole. Sorry if I misunderstood, but are you saying the nurse, who did not witness your interactions, said you should have been kinder? If so, I agree with the others. Complain. How dare she police your behavior when your only job was to heal? Not the asshole. You're in recovery from surgery, not at a bar. Lol, your roommate sounds like my mom. I'm sorry. Get some rest and here's to a full and speedy recovery. Not the asshole. It's a hospital stay, not a social call. She may have been feeling lonely, especially since you had visitors, but that doesn't mean you are her built-in company. I would address it with the nurses or someone else of that nature. It's not fair that the onus was on you because she got her feelings hurt. Not the asshole. Years ago I was hospitalized and my hospital roommate had her whole family over, like it was a party when I just wanted to rest. They stayed after visiting hours and I was going crazy with frustration. I was pretty young, 19 or so, and finally called the nurse and whispered to her to please make them leave so I could slip. You are there to rest, not to socialize. Am I the asshole for not letting a woman cut the line at the grocery store? Hi Reddit. I need your opinion on grocery store etiquette and not letting someone cut the line. Tonight after work I stopped by my local grocery store to grab a handful of items to make dinner. 5 items in total. I maneuvered my cart behind an older woman who was slowly navigating putting her groceries on the belt to be checked out. She was the only person I noticed in front of me. A few minutes later another woman tries to edge her way in line in front of my cart. I gave her a quizzical look and she said, "Oh, I was here before, but I went to go and see if the other line over there was moving faster." I said, "Okay, but you weren't here when I arrived." Shrug. The woman proceeded to inform me she was here first and that she should be let back in because she only stepped away to see if the other line was faster. I replied that I did not see her here before I joined the line, so she could get behind me or go back to the other line. At this point she showed me that she only had a few things and was shocked that I wasn't going to let her back in. She had 4 packs of Jell-O. I pointed out that I too only had a few things and I wasn't going to move because I did not see her in the line in front of me when I joined. Now this is where I may be the asshole. At this point we're both getting frustrated in this grocery store pissing match for pole position. She says, "So you're not going to let me back in? Where's your Christmas spirit?" I'd had enough of her entitlement at this point and I shot back, "Don't pull that shit." Honestly, if I had been behind her in line, I would have happily held her place if she has asked. But she wasn't there when I arrived and she just assumed she could cut back in line after a few minutes. Using Christmas spirit as a means to get what she wanted was the last straw for me. In the end she glared at me and said, "I hope you have a Merry Christmas," her voice dripping with sarcasm. And she left to go back over to another cashier. The irony is, we both left the store with our items at the same time. So Reddit, am I the asshole for not letting this woman cut in front of me and calling her out when she tried to use Christmas spirit to get her way? Not the asshole. She gambled and lost. She would have most likely had a different experience if asked you first, but she just assumed you'd roll over. I never let people cut the line on me. Ask, and I'll probably say yes, assume, and it's a hard no. Not the asshole. I was 8 months pregnant buying milk for my other kids at Target because it was near my house and I was too tired to go to the good grocery store. This lady with a preteen and 55 things in her cart was like, I need to cut please. I have an unhappy child with me. My grumpy mouth shot off, well, lady, I have an unhappy child in me, so back off unless you want my foot in you. I am not usually rude like that, but she just rubbed me the wrong feeling way. Not the asshole. You were perhaps not the most polite, but she was being unreasonable and you weren't obligated to back down just because she mentioned Christmas. She could also have showcased her own Christmas spirit by not bothering you when it was her own fault she lost her place in line. I would have laughed and said that I am not Christian. Not the asshole. Not the asshole. Everyone knows the risks of trying to find a shorter line. She walked away so she lost her spot. Just because it's the week before Christmas doesn't mean that she gets a free pass. Seriously? How old was she? Because that sounds like a kid who gets up from their seat to go play but wants it back once a sibling sits down. Not the asshole. Am I the asshole for snapping at my mom for telling people I'm gay? My 20 male sister, 14, was reading a book yesterday when she asked me, what does a Greek god look like? I asked her why she is asking me that and she showed me a passage saying a guy has the features of a Greek god. So I told her, you know, muscular and handsome. I noticed my mom giving me a weird look and asked her if something's wrong. She said, nothing. Later asked me if I like my best friend, 20 male, because he's tall and muscular. I was taken aback. As it turns out, she had always assumed he and I are gay, which is not the case. I quickly told her we're not gays but she didn't believe me, saying the way we behave around each other leaves no other possible interpretation. So I told her she should stop trying to interpret and see things that are not there. She said, okay, before telling me she told her friends that I am gay but haven't come out to her yet, and that she was worried about me keeping it bottled up inside. I snapped at her for it. I have nothing against gays but I don't want them to think I'm one when I'm not since it'll only lead to awkwardness. Not to mention one of them has a daughter I have a crush on and might ask out. She said she only told them because she was worried about me and wanted some advice on what to do. The way we behave around each other leaves no other possible interpretation. Unless you guys are playing a little phallus fencing, this is a wild statement. Overall, not the asshole. I think the snapping was probably a little much. It does sound like she was genuinely worried and was trying to figure out how to help you, but coming up with random explanations for worries about issues that may or may not exist is a really bizarre behavior that it does sort of justify the loss of temper. Not the asshole. Mom went way out of bounds with that. Not only should she not have confronted you, but she never should have said anything to anyone else. As a mom, I am completely taken aback by her actions. If and when you are ready, you need to sit her down and explain to her how this really affects you. Though you are not gay, if you were, it would be your choice to tell others. It would be up to you, to decide the who's and when's. Being that she made a completely false assumption about your sexuality, and told others, mom should feel like the ass. So a male saying, muscular and handsome, makes them gay? I am not understanding her thought process. Regardless, not the asshole. Oof. Growing up, my mom was the kind of person where from basically kindergarten on, if she so much as knew the name of a girl in my class, she would tell everyone she encountered that I had a crush on them. Not exactly the same, but I recognize the smugness and their preference for their narrative over reality. To this day I still don't discuss my dating life or personal life much at all with her because of that. Not the asshole. Not the asshole. Tell her she better clarify things with her friends. If she refuses, in front of her pull out your phone and pretend to make phone call saying, man, I just realized my mom is in a gay relationship with her best friend. Yeah, I'm sure. They whisper and talk to each other so no one can hear. They laugh at things that no one else understands. They touch each other's arms. They go on dates. They meet at each other's houses when no one else is there so they can have private time. Yeah, I'm sure they're both gay. Hang up and ask mom how it feels for people to think she's gay now. Don't tell her until later that it was a fake phone call. Not the asshole. You are not obliged to share your preferences. And in this era we live in, I am not sure why mom would need support if you were gay. Truthfully, no one would care except for a few crazies. And hopefully you have none of that.